I was doing a bunch of research about you before today, obviously, and I miss the days where you would color your hair pink and green and everything. What happened?
I was, I gotta preserve my hairline.
Is that what it is? Everyone
Yeah,
told me the same thing, dude. They're like, "You're gonna go bald. You can get like restoration surgery. We're in LA, baby.
true.
You should get into
I
that."
mean, I really want to grow my hair out really long. Like I've always wanted to since I was a kid,
Yeah,
and I would get it like decently long, and then my mom would always be like, it was something would come up and be like, you should probably cut your hair. Like
really?
gotta photos or something. But I would always have my hair long when I was a kid to the point where like sometimes I was like a skater kid. So like I remember walking to school, my hair was so long that I could like not really see. So I would kind of like look down at the ground.
That's that's not good. Hey, everybody! Welcome back to Clean Break, a podcast dealing with art and business, powered by Always Art. I'm your host, Matt Gondek. Your name is Justin Mensinger
Yes.
by birth. That's your real name.
Yeah.
What do you do? Like, are you like what's the term that you call yourself?
I usually say designer and artist because I feel a designer's role is to sketch,
Yeah,
maybe gather silhouettes or concepts as a clothing designer. But then I feel like as an artist, you're using your hands, you're creating. You'll get to the point as an artist where you delegate and you have a team that helps you execute your ideas and you creative direct. But I think ultimately, an artist has a lot different approach than a designer, and I think I do both. I strive for functionality in what I'm doing,
uh huh.
and everything I do, I 99% of it is sustainable, or I aim to be as sustainable as possible with everything I do. But that doesn't really, I don't really put that in my title. I don't like to be called like a sustainable designer or like
What
upcycle
is that?
designer.
Yeah, because the word upcycle kept coming up, like people
Yeah.
describing you.
I mean, it's like reusing materials, like taking old things, making them into new things. And that's really part of my DNA. But I feel like as I see myself as a designer and artist because I make clothing, I'll do wall pieces, I'll do furniture. I just like to create things. And I kind of use that template in anything I do, is kind of my approach. Is like there's some gray area in between where I'm doing both, I guess.
Got it. Did you make all the clothes you have on right now?
Yeah, except the hat. This is from Capital in Japan.
Okay.
The shirt I made, a lot of different t-shirts. I feel like a lot of the times, like this shirt, some of these shirts are like personal to me or like I know their origins, you know what I mean?
Well, yeah.
And then the pants is like a vintage upholstery. And then the shoes I did, these are like the first time I made a pair of
Oh, those
shoes.
the shoe. I saw those on your Instagram. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm gonna make more soon, but one thing at a time.
Got it. You just made a couch out of jeans too. I saw.
Yes.
Amazing. Okay, let's talk about where you're from. You're from Chicago.
I'm from I lived in Chicago. I moved here from Chicago, but I'm from the Midwest.
Where?
And so originally I was born in Michigan.
Okay.
I kind of was all over the Midwest because I moved a decent amount as a kid. Like I wouldn't say I moved the most out of anyone, but I would say I was in a lot of different environments I was born in the country in a rural area where small town,
Yeah.
and that was my earliest upbringing till I was 5. So my reality at the time is pretty much like the woods,
Yeah.
like playing in the mud in the front yard, riding my bike all day. I had a dirt bike when I was 3 years old,
Yeah. Yeah.
so it was very, I guess, off the grid a little bit.
Yeah.
It was very outdoorsy, I guess you could
That's
say.
exactly how I was brought up. Like my
Yeah.
neighbors were Amish. You know what Amish is?
Yeah. So we had a lot of
Yeah.
Amish in Indiana.
Yeah.
My grandma used to take me to this county fair every summer,
Yeah.
and it would just be like buggies everywhere. But I do feel like that was only like, I mean, I'm 26 now, so like in the grand scheme of things, that was maybe like a fifth of my life. You know what I mean? It was until I was like 5, and then we moved outside of Detroit at the time. So I went to kindergarten outside of Detroit. So somewhere like between the city and the suburbs, I would say. So that was a lot different environment
Hmm.
than like growing up in the country. And then I'm like thrown into the mix with
Probably
all
like a
these
lot more
kids.
kids in your school too.
Yeah, definitely. Then being in that small town, because like the high school that my mom went to, my dad, I feel like their graduating classes were like 30 people. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Dude, mine
like,
was like 65.
really,
Yeah.
I think my high school was like I want to say it was like 900. I feel like there's like a few thousand kids in my high school.
That's wild. Like, I always ask the same question. Like, I can't even fathom that. Like, because I graduated with like 65. Did you know all the kids? There's no way you could.
I knew a lot.
Well, yeah, but like,
Yeah.
there's no way you can name all 900. Like, if I showed you photos, you'd be like, I don't know who the fuck that is.
No, there's definitely people that I feel
Okay.
like you would go the whole time and you would just kind of like know their face, but you want to know their name.
Yeah. Okay.
It was a huge school. So
Got
like
it.
that was kind of like the rest of my childhood from like after we lived in outside of Detroit and then we moved outside of Chicago like an hour southwest. So then I was in the suburbs at that point. But I feel like the interesting thing about where I grew up was I had gone into so many different environments up until that point. Cause like first through third grade,
Yeah.
I feel like my school was very like just very like middle of the US. But then like from fourth grade all the way to the time I got done with high school, I was in like another town over. And I just feel like I got a really well-rounded experience of like being around so many different types of people. And then going from that to then living in the city in Chicago, I just felt like from the time I was like a kid up until basically like the time I'm in college, it's like I saw the country, the suburbs, and the city and interacted with all these different types of people and was able to kind of like see the commonalities in everyone, but
Yeah.
also like what makes everyone's viewpoint unique and also where there is gaps too between like people's perspective. You know what I mean? Like I feel like there's a lot of misunderstanding in our world, and I feel that I'm blessed that the places I got to live as a kid showed me so many different viewpoints and ways of living that then I got to LA though, and then it kind of all goes out the door.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like I feel like I saw so much of the world in the Midwest, but then it's only the Midwest, and then you get here and it's a completely different game.
Yeah. It's wild here. It's like night and day. Dude, I mean, I grew up in Pittsburgh. It was so small. Like, I really didn't get to see much of anything outside of like just it was such a small, narrow viewpoint of the world until I moved to LA. Cause like, I don't know. I mean, like everyone's out here from like every continent on earth and like Christian and like, all the other religion, like everything. Like in Pittsburgh was so small that like I didn't move out here till I was like 31, 32. To like I just feel stunted in that way. So like, I mean, that's really good you got to do that. That's great. I don't need every little drop of your life though. Let's move forward and get to like so how did you start designing things at least to the point where people start taking notice?
So I feel like as a kid, I feel like it all stems back to my early childhood, like subconsciously absorbing things. But
Okay.
I think the first time I really made things like consciously, yeah, I would just make things as a kid. Like I would
Like with
if I
clothing?
if I was interested in something, like I would become obsessed with it. And like I remember I was into like tech decks, like little skateboards at the time.
Yeah.
So or like even if I backtrack before that, like just I was always creating things around whatever I was interested in. So like as a kid, I like dirt bikes, so I would just build like jumps in the yard. Or then when I got into tech decks, I wanted all the Rams, but at the time I didn't have them. And then so I would just make them out of cardboard at first.
Yeah.
And then after that, it became like everyone was into Call of Duty when I was in middle school. So that was like my first time really creating things for someone other than myself. Is I had like this little business where I would spray paint people's Xbox controllers. I would put like a monster logo and their initials, or like I was really thorough about it though. Like I would be on YouTube. I was like 12,
Yeah.
but I would just go study it on YouTube, like the process. You would like clean the controller off, sand it down, hit it with acetone, paint it, like mask it off. I feel like it
Wow.
was the first like creative pursuit I had that I was like figuring out how to make money with it too. And at the time, I feel like my parents didn't really know I was doing it. And then I feel like they like found out because I had like spray painted in the garage or something. And then there's like paint.
Yeah.
And my mom's like, what are you up to, you know?
Yeah.
And then once she found out that I was actually like doing something productive with it and like making money, she was like behind me with
Yeah.
it. So then I was like, I started to go full force ahead. And then they were like, whoa, like you can't just be like spray painting in the basement or like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so that was the first time I really feel like I was kind of designing something. Hit the mic. I feel like it fizzled out, and then I got into like sneakers, and then I was collecting shoes, and they became very oversaturated very fast. But it was like what my friends were into at the time when we first got into high school. Like I was a skater kid. And then I was just wearing like Nike SBs. I didn't know that there was all these like releases and like people were collecting them. And once I found out about that, the type of person I was, then I got super into it. And then from there, it got old to me quick though. Like by the time I'm like leaving high school, I like don't really care that much about it anymore.
Yeah.
And then cuz I was like painting shoes, you know, like I was like airbrushing like Timberland's
I
red
think
and
we all
stuff.
did at one point.
So I got into that, and then I was like, me and my friend had a dream of having like a clothing brand around the time I'm getting out of high school. All my friends were older than me. There was like a group of us, and they all skated, and I was always the youngest kid in the group. So like I always just dealt with like everything that would come with being the youngest kid in a group of skaters. You know what I mean? So
Well,
then,
it's like shitting on you or what?
yeah, I mean, as a kid, yeah, you get your ass kind of kicked, or like
Yeah, yeah.
you just you're kind of like the guinea pig of the group. You know
Yeah,
what I
you're the
mean?
little
It's like,
kid. I was always the oldest on everything.
really?
I don't know what that's like.
I feel like I was always around older people because I was like, I was the only child for, oh, like, you know, like first 10 years of my life. Like I was like the only grandkid in the family or whatever. So like my mom had me young. So I feel like I grew up around adults.
Got it.
So then I feel like naturally it was just normal to me to like, I feel like even now, like I feel like I gravitate towards people that are older than me. And then that kind of has maybe made me mature faster.
Probably helps you too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's like mentors.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Got it. Got it. Got it. That's good.
So we had that dream. One of my friends, like we all kind of like fizzled out, you know, like once you're in high school, like we were all skating, then people get jobs, you get
Yeah.
cars, someone gets a girlfriend, we all kind of like go our own way. And I stayed close with one of my friends I grew up with, and he started taking me into the city when he got his license. So I was still young, like 14. They would go skate in the city, but then he started taking me to places like RSVP Gallery or like Joe Fresh Goods had a store in the city. He would take me there. And I started finding out about things at that time. Like I remember like one of my friends had a pair of like Pyrex shorts that Virgil had made and would wear them to school. And I'd be like, what are those? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
at the time, I feel like I didn't really understand like the difference between like Ben Trill, and then there was Pyrex. Like all these brands started to pop up that felt very symbiotic with like this Tumblr era and sneaker culture. And so at the time, me and my friend had a dream of like one day having our own store like that. That was kind of like skateboard aesthetic and inspired, but also kind of like streetwear, I guess,
Yeah.
in the city. And that's kind of where the seed was first planted. And then at the time, I had maybe like gone to the city, got some patches, and then got a bomber jacket off eBay and like literally hand sewed them on.
Got
Like
it.
I would like make little random stuff for myself like that.
Yeah.
Or like one time we went to Walmart and got like a Hanes gray t-shirt and the iron-on transfer and printed out the printer and like cut out shapes and ironed them on the t-shirt. And the
Yeah.
t-shirt was like so stiff that like we didn't even wear it. You know what I mean? It just looked terrible.
Yeah.
So I feel like it really started around like 16, and then like for like 2 years I didn't try to do anything with it. And then I went to like a big state school after high school, which looking back at it, I have no idea why I did this or like just like allowed myself to do this, but I didn't really know. Like I was graduating high school. I felt like there's pressure on me to go to college, you know?
Yeah.
Like I feel like from like my mom and my dad's side, like I felt like I was the only one who would be going to, like I was the first generation of someone to go to school basically.
Got it. Got it.
Like they had gone to like my mom had gone to like maybe like a community college at one point or something. Same with my dad, and my dad had passed when I was a kid. My stepdad went to Michigan State, so I felt like it did seem like it was kind of like the path for me to go on.
Yeah.
So I go to Michigan State, and then it's like I feel like I get there the first day, and I feel like immediately it was like I could see the path. You know what I mean? Like it was like I get there, and then I hung out with this kid I met at orientation, and we're walking in a group, like 20 people deep, like that night, like through this neighborhood. And out of the group, though, I remember feeling like how different Michigan State was from my high school. You know what I mean? Like, I thought what was happening, like at our high school, like the style that we had or like what people were into was what was happening across the US everywhere.
Got it.
but I didn't realize it was all the influence from Chicago and then like the things that we were into. And when I went to Michigan State, immediately I'm realizing I'm in a completely different environment, which it just felt like I was out of place.
Okay.
But I had connected with one kid from that whole group of 20 people, and he was wearing a Como de Garçon tee with like a little heart on it.
Yeah.
And at the time, he had a logo on his phone, and he said like that was his brand that he was creating.
Okay.
And it was just like literally just seeing someone else with the same dream that I had like 2 years before that, and just kind of like put in the back of my mind. And then now here I am at this like crossroad in life where like I get to this big university, and it's like I see my life path. If I go on this life path, is like I'm gonna be working a 9 to 5 for like a big company.
Yeah.
And
What did you go to school for?
so at the time I was just in business, like in like general business.
Got it. Okay.
But since I was a kid, like my mom would always tell me that I should go into marketing. I
Okay.
didn't know what marketing was as a little kid, but while we would be in the car and we would see a billboard, and I'd be like, they should have done the billboard this way. Or like I would see a commercial and I'd be like, why didn't they do it this way? And my
Uh-huh.
mom would always be like, when you're older, you need to go into marketing. She's like, you got to go into marketing.
Yeah.
So at the time I was in general business when I got there. And as soon as I got there, though, I seen that the dream was re-sparked in my mind. Like that first day, I was like, I'm not going on this normal path. Like
So how long were you in school then?
I hadn't even started. I just got there.
I mean, you would sign up to go though, like, right?
Yeah, I'm saying this first night I got there is when it clicked in my brain
Yeah, I get
where I
it.
was like, what I'm gonna do is make clothes. Like that is what I'm doing with my life.
Yeah. Did
And
you stay in school though?
I stayed in school. So what happened was I knew this as soon as I got there, this was my mission, but I knew I had like this like little gap in time to like I had a few years to make this shit happen, or else I was gonna have to go
Get
and
the
do
job.
yes.
Okay.
So I like accepted that fact in my mind that it was like, okay, I have like a clock ticking, you know what I mean? And I think at first, I think the other thing was I was a pretty good student in school.
Okay.
Like I feel like as a kid, I was kind of like a bad kid in terms of like, I just feel like I had a lot of trauma that I hadn't dealt with, that then like I would act out or do something, or like I would get in trouble, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then I feel
What
like I would
trauma?
like
Why'd you have trauma? Do you want to
I
get
f-
into it?
I feel like it was it's like right before I started kindergarten, my dad had committed suicide.
Oh, that's
And
why he
also
passed
like
away. Oh shit.
so
Okay.
then like I feel like as soon as I got into school, like coming from the country and then being in like this suburban school outside of Detroit, I felt like I didn't relate to any of the other kids, you know what I mean? Like they're coming in there like as a 5-year-old with just like they just been at daycare, and I've just been dealing with all this like
Heavy shit.
all the things that were happening like in the country where I grew up, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it was like it's different out there.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
So I felt like I didn't know that at the time, and I felt like my family, like obviously like whatever they're feeling about it, whatever my mom's going through, she's still young, figuring her life out. I feel like
Yeah.
I was subconsciously absorbing that energy, and then so that was making me act out because I wanted attention, or I probably just needed some love or like someone to understand what I was going through, but no one really knew or like knew how to help me at the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And probably it was also maybe like a self-inflicted thing. Like I'm just a little kid, you know, like a little boy is gonna act up. So I feel like I was smart, but I would act up a lot. So then I feel like once I got to college, I knew like everything I had done up until that point, like academically, even in high school, it felt like it didn't really get me anywhere.
Yeah.
Like I didn't
I don't think
see
it's supposed to.
yeah, like I didn't see where all that sacrifice and hard work, and like, oh, now I'm at this university. It's like this isn't gonna get me to where I want to get in life, and neither is it gonna be me being who I feel like I am internally. But I still didn't fully understand myself. I didn't even think of myself as an artist at the time, or ever being an artist. Like I thought that was like something that was like held up here for like a certain person, that like they're already painting, and like I never took any of those classes in high school. My friends would be in the art classes. I never did any of that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like I never saw myself in that light, but I was always creating.
Yeah.
So I feel like as soon as I get to school, that's when the vision hits me that like I'm gonna make clothes. And then from there, I stayed with the I was doing like keeping up with stuff a little bit, maybe for like the first year while I'm there. But it got to the point where I feel like I was just I would stay up all night I was just trying to make money. Like, I knew I was on my own. Like, a lot of people there were on scholarship or their family was paying for their school.
Yeah.
I was there, like, knowing I was gonna be in debt and knowing I had to make something happen for myself. I wanna change the course of my life and be responsible and, like, take care of what I need to take care of. And I just make that my mission. Like, I started going to Hobby Lobby. Like, I didn't know how to do anything. I didn't know screen printing. I didn't know anything. So I just went to Hobby Lobby. It was my first logical thing to do. I get like iron-on letters, a t-shirt, and start ironing them on there, like bleaching stuff in like my dorm bathroom. Like, the other kids probably hated me. You know what I mean? It's like 4 of us living in this little room,
Yeah.
and I'm just like using chemicals, like ironing t-shirts
Yeah.
and
Yeah. It's
stuff.
not good.
So that was kind of how it started, and then it kind of progressed to the point where like I would just stay up all night, skip class, I'll go thrifting, and like I was reselling clothes at the time to get my money up because I knew I was going at that point that I was gonna be in Chicago and that I was transferring. So I decided to go into marketing. I
Oh, you
transferred.
transferred out of Michigan to go to Chicago for marketing.
Yeah, so
So,
like I think I got into the marketing program at Michigan State. I was there for 2 years.
got it.
And it was like then I transferred to UIC. My friend was going there. Like people I knew from high school were going there and like living in the city. And I was like, why didn't I just do that to begin with? Like
Why didn't you?
I think I just didn't want to go to the city because I wanted to like leave the state. You know what I mean?
Got it. Okay.
But then I didn't understand what that meant. I didn't understand that I was gonna be in the middle of nowhere and that I was gonna be like weird. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm
Yeah.
like making clothes and taking photos at like concerts, like rappers and stuff, and everyone else is just like wearing Ralph Lauren and Vineyard Vines and going to the football game, and that's their lifestyle. It was
Yeah.
very like frat oriented.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like I'm just completely out of the mix in that. There's
Yeah.
like 50,000 people on a campus, and I'm just like,
The weird kid.
yeah, like I had a couple friends who were into the stuff I was into, but it was
Not
rare.
a lot. So once you went to Chicago, probably like a lot of people were into that stuff. Like probably opened like the doors, right?
Yeah, I feel like once I was in the city, like immediately I get there and then I'm taking photos for people, you know, like at the time I went home actually. I was home for probably like I want to say like 3 or 4 days and I got kicked out of my house.
Why?
At the time it was like I hadn't proven myself of what I was doing. You know what I'm saying? Like I didn't have any real evidence that the life path that I was pursuing was amounting to anything.
Uh-huh.
And so I think it was just like a not seeing eye to eye between like my mom and then my stepdad. And then it was kind of like they wanted me
If
to
you're
work
gonna
at
live
a
here, you're gonna get a job.
yes,
Yeah, okay, I get that. Yeah, because they
exactly.
don't understand. It's not their fault. Like
No.
I think we all do something so weird. Like it's hard to understand if you don't like know people like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
And it's like and it's as like you look at like an 18 or 20-year-old kid and I would tell them like wild stuff, you know what I mean? Like I feel like I was so confident and like that I was gonna make it,
Yeah.
but I hadn't like really made it at all. So
Yeah.
then
You
they're
had a
like,
vision.
yeah, I had the vision, and but
Yeah.
they're just kind of like, go make it happen, and but like you're on your own. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, absolutely.
so then when I got kicked out of the house, like then yeah, I was taking photos for people in the city, and then I was like going to garage sales, like finding stuff to resell, and then I was working on my own brand.
What was the brand called?
ADNS. So it was
All right.
always dream, never sleep. And that's kind of how I was living. I would stay up till like 4 a.m. But like I would be like reading, you know what I mean? Or I would like look into stuff. Like I would be listening to a lot, taking a lot in, trying to grow as a person to understand all these different things I was tapping into more.
We got to move ahead a little bit here. And obviously anyone that knows your story, a really big part of it is this TV show, The Hype, right? So I want to talk about that. Like you're just this kid in Chicago. Like how did you get on that show? That
All
show
right.
is like it's on HBO. It's not like it's like on like some little channel. It's like a big deal. Like how did you get on it?
So between me getting kicked out of my house and then like somewhere on that timeline, it's like at the time I like there's just a lot of things that happened, you know what I'm saying? But more of the story is the one thing that put me in a good position, I feel like, and got my head on straight and really helped me grow as a designer from making like t-shirts and reselling vintage clothes was I got an internship at RSVP Gallery. And at the
Okay.
time, if you know anything about RSVP Gallery, it was founded by Virgil Abloh and Don C. So if you look at that era from like 2009 through 2015, it's like the Don C snakeskin hats. It's Virgil making Pyrex and then making Off-White and then working at Louis Vuitton.
Yeah.
Like, these are the type of things that came from that foundation. And so being there, I was there for 9 months and I soaked in everything I could while I was there. And then I went out on my own and started, at that point, cutting and sewing clothes, reusing other clothes
Yeah.
to simplify it.
But everyone knew you were the kid that came out of that gallery.
I don't know if people did, but I think what I
There's
had.
no shame in it, man. Like,
No,
you
no,
gotta
no, no,
learn
no.
from
I
somewhere.
think it was like, I don't think people did. It was just like I was hustling hard. Like, I
Yeah,
was
there's no
making
doubt that you
stuff
were.
every
Like,
day.
there's no doubt. Like, you wouldn't be here if you weren't doing all that. But I
Yeah.
think it's okay to say the little extra push you have is like, this kid's killing it, and because he was here.
Yeah, like I think it added credibility to
That's
me
what I'm
for
saying.
sure.
That's totally cool. That's great.
But I don't know if people knew though. So then it was like when the show thing came about.
Yeah.
At this point, it was probably so I'm at RSVP, then I get my first project at the end of 2019 with High Snobiety. I get flown to New York. I think my career's taking off. I graduate school too. Like
Yeah.
I saw school all the way through. I want to drop out so many times, but I did it for my mom.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? And I get my degree for marketing. I had to take like 20 credit hours that last semester, so I didn't have to do, because I had transferred. I had to like do 4.5 years basically.
Yeah.
So then I'm done with school and I'm getting flown out to New York like 3 days later. You know what I'm saying? Like, life is
You
good.
feel good.
I got that first check.
I made it. I'm done.
You know
I
what
made
I mean?
It. Yeah.
Like, broke off this toxic relationship I was in, could pay the rent by myself, just all these things. And then I come home. I had gone to London and Paris, and then I come home, and then I remember like I had like a little month or two hiatus probably where I wasn't as focused as maybe I could have been right at the beginning of that year.
Got it.
And then COVID hits.
Okay.
But it was like at the time COVID hit, I almost signed a lease on this storefront in Chicago. And also I was supposed to be in Japan at that time.
Got it.
And I had started talking to this girl and I just kind of didn't want to go and I kind of just got out of it. But also like the COVID thing was real. And then I was like, I remember also applying to be an assistant manager at this boutique in Chicago I wanted to work at, just to have like more experience and like a kind of stable job. And I did the interview the day COVID started and no one was on the street. And I remember I sat in the rain for like an hour or two. Like, they were like late to interview me. And then they're like, we'll call you back in like a week if the city reopens. Obviously that never happened. It's
Yeah.
like the universe canceled it. So then from there, it's like I go through a year basically during COVID where like everything is like I'm getting that $600 a week bonus somehow, and then I'm just hustling with my clothes. But I feel like not in the best position. Maybe a lot of us weren't.
Yeah.
But I feel like my mental health probably tanking a little bit, and I'm like, I had this vision my whole life. Am I ever gonna have my story out to the world? Like, am I ever gonna do all these things I said I was gonna do? I told people I was gonna move to LA. All these things happened, and then COVID hits, and I'm like, are we about to go into a war? Like, what's gonna happen? Is my dreams that I've had as like an 18-year-old kid like a facade that I created in my own mind that I'm lying to myself?
Yeah.
And I was like trying to apply to the carpenters union and everything, and like nothing was
You're
working.
just doing
Right?
everything.
So then I do this collection on 2/26 in honor of the day my dad had passed away. It was called 1984.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I started talking fast right now. I just realized.
What's 1984?
I had this 1984 Chevy. So my
Okay.
dad used to always have all these trucks, and he had a 91 S10 that was white, and then he had like a square body GMC, but like the emblem was taken off. You know,
Okay.
there's just a lot of weird things. So I had this truck I got because I started doing some woodworking at the time in Chicago during COVID. And that was just the year of the truck. And I just named it after that because I felt like that truck represented his energy.
Yeah.
So I paid my friend from RSVP to shoot a video, paid my friend a model. Some of my friends model for free. I rent out this warehouse. We get this fog machine, these lights. I had cut off my commissions for a month. I had a friend helping me at the time, and I would pay him like based on what we were bringing in. Like, I would just break him off some money so he could just pay his bills. And basically we dropped this collection and it flops and no one buys it.
It's your
And
first collection.
I had done a lot of stuff up until that point though. So like this was like one of those things where I'm like, no, I want to start just focusing on my designs. I don't want to do
Got it.
commissions and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
Flops don't bring in any money. This is February of 2021, and I was at the lowest point in my life. Like, if I tell you, like, I was just down bad. Like, it was so many things happening like at that moment, the other things in my personal life, but that was a pretty low point that tested my faith, and at that point I wanted to give up. And then about a week or two after that, I had done an interview for like this, like the flyer was real sketchy, but basically I had done an interview like, the year before, like maybe it was November.
Okay.
And then so I finally got a call back about it. And then like I go through the process of these phone calls, and then that's kind of how it came about. But it came about very randomly because the people who had initially sent me the information
We're
about
talking
it.
about the hype now. The interview was for the
Yes.
Okay,
So
okay,
after I
okay.
hit this lowest point in my life, and then I like some people send me this thing to apply to months before that though.
Yeah.
And I just didn't think anything was ever gonna come of it because months had gone by, I didn't hear anything. So then all of a sudden I hit this rock bottom, and then the universe is like boom. Everything fell into alignment. I get casted. I get flown out on the 26th, 1 month later.
1 month later.
Yeah.
How what was so you did like a video interview and then just like we pick you, or like what happened?
It was like phone call interviews where it was something like what we're doing.
Yeah.
They basically asked me about my whole life. The first call. I don't know how I don't want to go into too many details. You know what I'm saying? I
You
don't
say
know what
whatever
I'm
you
about to
want.
say. But I feel like this is a common process of what they do when they cast people is they interview you, find out who you are. And that was what I remember the process. It was like just these phone calls, you know what I mean? Like they really want to know who you are, what you do, what you're about, what is your backstory.
Okay, got it. Yeah. So everyone listening, The Hype, it's a show on HBO. 10 designers, different visions. You guys all competed for a prize of $150,000. I imagine every episode they cut somebody off. Like that's pretty common, right?
Something like that. Yeah.
So I'm guessing here. So tell me if I'm wrong. Like every episode, this week's theme. You'd all have to make something, and at the end they'd vote somebody off the island.
Yeah.
But at the end, there was one winner. It's got $150,000, and you won.
Yes.
That's pretty great. You won a television show, very young age, just like right out of college. That's pretty cool.
It was definitely life changing, and it was one of those moments where like I had gone through a lot. So
Yeah.
at the time, like it felt this like this massive breakthrough of like
Yeah.
I had like I feel like maybe like a month before that had happened, I literally had a moment where I remember like praying and surrendering, and then all that happened.
So then it worked. Are you
Yeah.
religious?
So I was not raised with any religion in my household at all. I feel like I just wasn't, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it was like I was told there was a higher power, and that was this is pretty much it. So
Yeah,
like
yeah,
I
yeah.
feel like I found like spirituality through myself, like
Got it.
through the things I had gone through. I see it a lot through like numbers and synchronicities and events and things of that nature happening. And the place I'm at in my life, I'm tapping more into it and looking into those things because I know that they're there for a reason, that they're important, but I'm not the most informed about those subjects.
Got it. So I'm gonna ask a bunch of random questions about the show before we move on. I just think this stuff's fascinating. You obviously were on the show, they filmed all of it, and you know that you won. Then you flew home. How long was it from the day that you physically in real life won till the public found out because it was on TV?
Probably 6 months, honestly.
So like, what's it like for those 6 months? Like this great, amazing thing happened, but you can't tell your friends, right?
Yeah, I couldn't tell anyone, and it was kind of weird, It was like it felt like it had happened, but it hadn't happened, and then there's like all this anxiety
You're
and
just like waiting.
uncertainty too. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like it was a weird place I was in because at the time I knew what had happened, but no one else knew. So I was still like the clothes that I had right at that time were just sitting on my website. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
I was still doing commissions when I first moved
You
out
couldn't
here.
even say I just filmed the show. You couldn't even tell anybody.
No.
Got
So
it.
like I
what
was
it
out
like,
here.
What was it like whenever the show came out? Like obviously people started like looking at you differently or what?
It
We're not
was
gonna
like
talk about the show too much. I just think it's such a pivotal point in your
No,
life.
it was like I moved out here. I'm doing commissions. I'm like meeting.
You had moved out
friends
here
of friends.
before the show aired.
Yeah, like I
Okay.
went back to Chicago for a month. My lease on my workspace and my apartment were up. I
Yeah.
pack everything up in a U-Haul. I drive here with my friend I grew up with. I had actually everything aligned how it was supposed to. Like I had like a mentor when I moved here. Like immediately, there's a lot of synchronicities. Like that's how life works for me. And then So I moved here, I was good, I was getting taken care of, I was growing as a person, you know? And then the show came out, and it was just like, I feel like at first the episode started airing and like nothing was really happening, and then like once it got closer to the end and people were noticing, because I wasn't talking a lot on there in the beginning, you know what I mean? Like I was there to do my
You
job,
talk so much. What do you really?
but during I wasn't on there. Like
Okay.
I was
Just quiet, head down,
I was in
work mode, win mode.
yes.
Okay.
So I feel like I was perceived as being more quiet and cut
Yeah.
off,
Uh-huh.
you know. And then near I feel like people started to notice near the end as the final ones were starting to be, and I was still there. Then like that's when like stuff started to sell out on my website, and then all of a sudden, like, you know, obviously once I win and everything, it's like I'm getting thousands of DMs from people, and I'm a humble, nice person. I'm trying to like reply to them when I'm at the
Yeah.
airport and stuff, and as soon as I reply to one person, they hit me with 4 more DMs.
That's what
And
happens.
then
Yeah.
as soon as you like go, then you'll notice someone DM you like a month or two ago, and you try to get to it or something, you see something, and then it's like you click on their page, and they don't even follow you anymore, but they sent you this heartfelt two
They just want your
paragraphs.
attention.
You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
so it was like I felt jaded a little bit, but I just stayed. I kept focusing, kept my head down, kept working, and I just got a lot done at that time. But it definitely went from like 0 to 100, and then I felt like at the time things were good, but I wasn't healed as a person, and I also wasn't assimilated in LA to know like how to operate as a clothing designer in Los Angeles to get the right manufacturer, or like where do I go to get zippers, or like I
Yeah.
didn't know anything. So
Yeah.
I moved out here and I'm still operating like I'm in Chicago, but then all of a sudden I have way more of a following and platform, and I'm still like figuring everything out.
Yeah. Got it. Got it. Yeah. It's super hard out here. Like no one wants to fuck with you until like you can do something for them. And like, especially if you move out here and like you don't know anybody, it's so hard.
But I felt like I was also getting taken advantage of by these bigger designers that would have meetings with me and then bite all my shit. And
Oh
it's
yeah.
like try to steal my essence from me. You know what I'm
Yeah. Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm still coming for all their necks. And one day I'm gonna be bigger than them. But it's not even out of animosity. It's just like out of who I am and who my spirit is. I've always done everything out of a pure heart. And I see how some of these bigger brands and designers will literally
Yeah.
get you in a room so that they can just take notes on you.
Yo, totally. Yeah. Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
didn't know that at the time when I first got here, you know what I'm saying? Like that type of stuff, I
It
feel
doesn't
like
happen where we're
it
from.
doesn't happen. If someone did that there, it would be an entirely different scenario
They'd be
than it
like,
is
they'd be
here.
canceled. They'd be shut out. But like, no, dude, you're right. Because like people have told that, I'm not trying to compare myself to you, but like same thing. Like I'm from the East Coast. Like I'm from the fucking cornfield too. And like, I like look at people face value and I'm kind to people, but like people use that shit out here. Like it's crazy. Yeah. It's not good. I mean, how long did it take you to realize like that was happening?
It took me honestly probably a year until I
Yeah.
seen the meeting I had a year later. All the stuff that I was talking about in that meeting and what I had done is then on a rack in a store that I
Yeah.
see,
Yeah.
and it's like this person who like befriended me, and so it's like
Did you ever speak to this person since then? You don't even talk to them? Yeah, fuck it. Okay. Uh, so okay, sorry. Let's get back on track here. We're getting off course. You got 150 grand from this show. You moved to LA. It was probably gone in like a week because it's so expensive out here. So let's move forward a little bit and just talk about like you now. Like I know you did the thing with Reebok. You did a collaboration with Reebok once you got out here,
Yup.
but that's great. We're taking too long on some stuff. So I just want to know about like your day to day. Like I've been to your studio now. I see what you got going on. Like the whole reason you're here, so we're gonna talk about we made something little together. But like, how did you do it? Like you're out here and people are DMing you. Like I know you just did a bunch of stuff with Jelly Roll. Like there's a lot of young designers listening to this. Like how did Justin do this? So like how are you doing it at this point? Like you're getting DMs like, can you make me a jacket? And you're like, cool. Like what's going on?
It's a balancing act, you know what I mean? And you also navigate your own way as an artist and how you want to move. And there'll be times where things come through that you don't expect, and you gotta like you want to always be on some sort of schedule or be productive, you know what I'm saying? But then it's like something might come up, you might get offered opportunities, so then you kind of got to move around
Yeah.
whatever you want to do personally, or like commissions come up, you decide what you want to take. Things flow in life. There'll be random things that happen that throw your day off. Like today I was getting ready for something I want to do. It's a bigger piece. Let's say it's like a bigger art piece. I'm not gonna fully go into it,
Okay.
but I had to get the transparencies ready this morning, right? I run out of ink, so I go run a couple minutes away to Staples over here, get the ink cartridge real quick to get that done. I had like intern coming in, to help, and I get back home and I open this ink cartridge, and someone had returned it, an empty one of a different color
Great
in that
work.
package. It's like random things like that throw your day off, right?
Yeah.
But then overall, I feel like my day today though is like making sure I'm focusing on myself more and my mental health and everything I'm doing and staying in that state that I feel like if you listen to like Rick Rubin or people on that wavelength creatively,
Yeah.
it's like as artists, I feel like we have to maintain our essence and stay in a certain state of how we feel and stay in alignment with ourselves to then be able to create what we're doing. Because I did get too on a hamster wheel when I first moved out here, where I'd be in the studio 12 hours a day, and I just burnt out. Like
Yeah.
I did that for like a year, and it was like I was putting things out, selling out of drops, and then I got to the point where it's like I'm not happy. You know what I'm saying?
Isn't it
I'm not
so dumb?
happy.
I did the exact same thing, dude.
Yeah.
It's like I started getting successful. Like I wasn't from money, so like when this money started coming in, these opportunities, I just want to do everything I could.
Yup.
So I started doing drugs. I started like just being an asshole to everybody. And like you would think like success makes you happy, but actually like if you're doing it the wrong way, it does not make you happy at all.
Yeah.
It just makes
So
it worse. It just amplifies the bad things about your life.
yes.
It's crazy.
So I feel like the first year it was like I was just on major hustle mode, 12 hours a day in the studio. Like I had moved my friend out here. He was working for me. I had like at a certain point there was like multiple people in the studio working with me, and it would almost be like a lot of things I do are so hands-on and detailed. It'd be like hard to be like fully delegating my ideas to them and stuff. And then I moved beyond that phase and I started working like delegating some things through like a sample get done by the factory or like figuring out the manufacturing process that way. And these things have altered how my day to day is. And I feel like now I'm getting back to my original essence of like, I'm still very hands on with how I create as an artist, but I also have these bigger projects and different things going on. And now I have interns. So it's like I'm balancing staying in the studio with living too, you know what I mean? Like making sure I take time to go outside and walk and like go on a hike or like, you know what I'm saying, whatever it is. And I
Yeah.
feel like I finally have just gotten to this point in my life where I'm just in tune and in alignment with everything now, where like my days and schedule might be very spontaneous and I'm not on a normal schedule. Like I was for a little bit. I was
Yeah.
going to the gym with the trainer, then I would start
You're not doing
working
the
at
trainer
noon.
anymore?
No.
Okay.
I'm still active, I still exercise, but like recently, this past month, my life has just been like kind of all over the place where like sometimes I might be in the studio like till like 7 in the morning, but I started working at like 1 in the morning and then I get like a couple pieces done. And then I feel like it's been like that where like I'm just been letting the energy flow and just
Yeah.
kind of going with it. You know what I'm saying? Like people I know from Chicago might be in town. I might have a friend help me like with the project and like we stay up till 5 a.m. or something. Like
Yeah.
I feel like I've been letting that energy ride out because that's when I'm my happiest and I'm also getting the most done and it's coming from my heart the most.
Yeah. Amazing. Yeah, totally. Where are you walking around downtown? So for everyone listening, I just recently moved, but we live a block from each other.
Yeah.
You don't walk around when
I skate everywhere in downtown,
Okay,
but
that's
if I
better.
go on like a walk or like I'll go on a hike, like I'll go, you know what I'm saying, to, like Runyon or
Okay.
like
All right.
my
All
friend
right.
took me the other day like there's a hike near Topanga Canyons, like
Okay.
near Malibu.
Yeah.
So like I'll try to go outside and do stuff like that.
Got it. Got it. Okay. Yeah. Working out's important. I used to have a trainer. I was working out like 5 days a week, and then right before we started filming these things where people could see me, I stopped working out. I,
It's a v-
it's a lot,
it's
dude.
a lot of time
It's so
investment.
much time.
As artists, I feel like we're operating on this frequency, like our energy's pouring into what we're creating.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Yeah, it doesn't work. I thought I could save time and I thought I was smart. I had the trainer come here, right? And like, I'll have them come to the studio because then I can just immediately start working.
yeah.
But the problem is he would come here and like as we're working out, I'd be like looking around like, oh yeah, that fucking thing needs done. I gotta go do that. It was a bad idea. It was not good. So now I don't have a trainer either. And God, I got off track. You didn't answer my question.
Oh,
Okay. Jelly Roll. And I'm picking him randomly.
okay.
Not Jelly Roll, but Jelly Roll, whatever.
Yeah.
Someone from his team contacts you. We want a jacket for tour. We want something for music video. what do you do? Like, do they tell you what they want, or do you just like, I'm Justin, I come up with my own ideas, like this is how much it costs? Like, I just don't even know how like you do it.
I feel like we could say the same about your commissions too. I
But
feel
I
like
have an
every
answer. I could answer it.
so I feel like in my scenario when I get a commission,
Uh-huh.
so with this project with Jelly Roll, I worked with an amazing stylist, and every time I feel like she would reference something that I had made before,
That's
and
the
then be
best when they
like,
do that.
"We like what you did here.
Uh-huh.
Could you add a collar, take the hood off, zipper needs to be like this."
Okay.
Or it'd be like, "We like the aesthetic of what you did here. We need a little bit cleaner. We want to put leather on it. It needs to be all black." And then give me a rough outline. So then maybe I'll make a sketch on the iPad, or like maybe I don't. Maybe it's like just we understand each other and
Yeah,
it's like,
just go
okay,
for
I'll
it.
switch that color palette up and we'll go from there.
Okay.
And then that's kind of the process. That's the smoothest way that it works, I feel like, is when the person wanting the custom piece or commission comes with a solid idea and outline and gives you your creative freedom to kind of like interpret it as you will. And I feel like those are the smoothest commissions I have. Like I used to do a ton of commissions for individuals too, and they would DM me and be like, "Hey, I want like a Broncos hoodie, like size large." I'd be like, "Cool." Like I'll find a vintage Broncos sweatshirt on eBay, mix it with the colors of the team, and then make it in a large, and boom. Like I feel like it's pretty. It doesn't have to be complex. Sometimes people try to make it really complex, or they know that it's custom, so then they start trying to just, "Oh, I want this and this," and I feel like that's when it messes the process up, and it's not fun for either of us.
Got it.
You know what I
Okay.
mean? It's
Yeah.
like I feel
They
like it's
just let you do what you do
yeah,
kind
let
of
me do what
thing.
I do, but also like have a good, solid enough idea, but don't. It doesn't need to be like way out there. But I've
Got it.
never really had to like do those ones, but I feel like I've had like somewhere it's like people have presented it, and I'm like
Do you turn things down?
sometimes, or like sometimes I'll get busy, and it's just like sometimes it's communication too. Like maybe someone wants to set up a call. I'll kick myself for that sometimes. But like recently, someone wanted to set up a call for a commission, and then this intern I used to have pulled up to the studio without announcing that he was going to like drop off some fabric. And then I went downstairs, and then it was like the time got away from me. So then it was like I was a little bit late to like. It wasn't like a scheduled call, but it was kind of like I'll call you in 30 minutes.
Got
And
it.
then I was kind of mad at myself after
Okay.
because I feel like then the person like had another call and whatever, and I was like,
Can't be doing that.
timing. It's like you
Yeah.
try to make everyone happy, and you can only be so many places and conversations at one
Yeah,
time.
absolutely. Yeah, you can only do so much. Let's talk about a little bit about how you moved to LA before we move on here. Like, I think a lot of designers or artists or like just entrepreneurs, they think they have to move to a big city. I mean, Chicago's pretty big, but
Yeah, it
like,
is.
what are this is such a dumb question. Like, what are some things that people don't realize when you move to LA?
Um, hmm. I think things people don't realize when they move to LA. For one, dang, that's a good
Like,
question.
dude, I mean, I play a lot of video games. I've always associated with like, if life's a video game, if you want to play the video game on hard mode, you move to LA
Oh yeah,
because everything here is so much harder. But once you get clicked in, you can really do whatever you want. Like it's all here. Everything's here if you can afford it and if you have the connections and you like play the game right. And I totally did not do any of that stuff when I moved here. Like I was just like this innocent, naive person when I moved here, and it was like everything was hard. Like this morning, I had to go out and just run some errands. That's an $8 parking lot here. You know, that's a $7 coffee here. It just adds up. It's
I think
crazy.
cost of living is one as an artist, like coming from the Midwest or anywhere, any place you would be coming from besides maybe New York is like the cost of living here, and also creating. Like I don't think people understand from the outside point of view like what it takes, for instance in clothing. Like people have all these expectations on you, I think, as like how you're supposed to operate as a clothing designer, this, that, and the third. Like I
Yeah.
don't think people understand the costs that add up between like the patterns, the sampling, the production, the units you got to hit, and then you got to have the demand to move all that. And it's like then if you're doing wholesale, you're taking a big cut getting into these stores, but then if you're doing direct to consumer, all of that sales and marketing is on you. And it's like there's a lot of cost just to keep playing the game here when you first get here. I would say for any designer or young artist moving here, just know that like when you get here, hit the ground running because there's a lot of things that could happen here. Your car gets stolen. You know what I'm saying? That happened to me. It happened to my friend. He's
Yeah.
younger than me. He's
Yeah.
still in his full blown hustle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like you gotta want expect the unexpected and be prepared for it because if you're not, I feel like it'll like eat you up here. But I feel like coming from somewhere like Chicago, like I feel like anyone who comes here from Chicago, like you already experienced some of those things there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if
Yeah.
you're coming from another place, I think also you really gotta like what how you're saying. I think I was the same way when I got here. I was already kind of like in my groove and workflow that I didn't go out of my way enough. Where now I have, and feel like I've built my network here more than I've been here 2 years. But I think in the beginning I wasn't social enough, and I was more like closed off.
Yeah.
And I feel like here you have to find your group of people, and also like be open to meeting people and at the same time though be like conscious of the energy you have around you because there's so many people here
Yeah.
trying to do something and a lot of people aren't from here and just end up here from somewhere else, so it's a very like transitional place where like you're gonna interact with a lot of people with a lot of different types of energy and you got to be prepared for that too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
You know what was hard for me was when I moved here, and like even to this day, it's like I'm from Pittsburgh, and it's a small city. I had friends in Pittsburgh that I was friends with them simply to just be friends with them. Like we didn't do any, we had no prior like prerogative when we hung out. It was just to be
yeah,
friends. But here, I feel like every friend I have, it's like we're working on something together. We're talking about business. We're like sharing like gossip about the world that we live in and move in. It's just how it is here.
yeah,
And that was really hard for me. Maybe it's not like that for everybody, but like if you're out here hustling and trying to make some money and like do something with your life, that was really hard for me to like grasp onto when I moved out here. Like you don't just like have passive friends here. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's just what I did, but like I don't know. It's just hard to like wrap my head around.
I agree with that.
Yeah,
I think it's a good thing though, I think.
I do. Yeah, I think it's
Because
good.
I think everyone inspires you to do, more with yourself or like
Yeah,
or opens your eyes to like neighboring creative outlets. You know what I'm saying? Like
totally.
I have a lot of friends like you who are painters. I have people I know who work in music management, and it makes me think about things I never think about as a clothing designer.
Yeah,
So then it's like I think it's a positive thing, but I also do think in terms of having like that time away from things to kind of reset your
it's
brain,
harder.
you can get that back in Pittsburgh or
Yeah,
Michigan or Illinois,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
wherever you're from, where here it's a dime and a dozen. You really got to find someone, a close friend who's on the same wavelength as you, who comes from a similar place as you. Like for me, I feel like one of my friends, he's out here from Oklahoma, and I feel like me and him can have like those like conversations where we're both on our clothing hustle and focused on that, but it's like you got to find your tribe, as they say.
Yeah, you really
Yeah,
do.
yeah.
You do. Do you get hit up a lot from people asking for free clothes?
No, I actually don't.
Like you don't get hit up from like, "Hey, I'm a stylist for this celebrity and he would love to wear you in the next music video. Can
I
we just
do get
have
the
it?"
stylist DM sometimes, and I'm like, I'm represented by the showroom. Like,
That's what you
if
do?
you're a real stylist, you're gonna be able to communicate with them and be able to go through them to pull pieces. And if you're not, then you're just gonna see the DM from me and just ignore it. Kind of like maybe some of the stylists, I'll like be willing to send them something, but like I don't deal with that. Like,
Good. Yeah,
I'd
don't
let
do
the
that.
showroom handle all that.
Yeah, don't work for free. So on top of everything you've been doing, I also know you had a fine art show recently, and that was back in Chicago. And obviously everyone knows you as an apparel designer, but now we have things hanging on the wall that look like paintings. I remember there was a basketball you made. Talk about your art show. What was that about?
So the art show came about. I wanted to get more into furniture and art. And I had an opportunity where I had a sponsor for an event, and I was basically needed to have an event in Chicago this year, and
Needed to.
needed to kind of, but simultaneously wanted to.
Okay.
So then it was like, all right, let's put this together. I wanted it to be an art gallery type experience. to be able to display these pieces I'd been making the previous year. I'd only done a few of them, but I wanted a proper environment to be able to house them and like to really do an entire show.
Yeah.
So then it just kind of fell into place in that way, and then I got connected with the gallery. My friends had a show there, so then it all just kind of fell into place, and I was able to build out the space as well and create like this mirrored fitting room that was in the middle. So that the title of the show is Reflections, and I
Yeah.
feel like that's where I was at a few months ago in my life too, just reflecting on everything I'd done up until that point, with clothing, designing, everything. And that was a physical showcase and place that someone could experience all these different thoughts and emotions I've had along with my creative process.
Got it. Um, what else could I ask you about that? Because I did see everything. It was really cool. I guess one thing, I come from the art, that side. I don't know the clothing. What was like the hardest thing for you to wrap your head around, like entering, like I'm gonna have a fine art show. Like what was that like?
I feel like it was kind of it's like really the logistics of everything and like how everything's gonna be displayed. I felt like I was on a timeline, and also I had a vision for what I was gonna create, but it really felt like some of it was me putting my soul out through the pieces in a way that was more that I cared more about expressing it than I did the commercial side of it, if that makes sense. Like I felt like to me it was more so I saw it from like maybe the marketing side, or maybe I just wanted to do this thing, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but the
So like
gallery wanted to make money.
of course you always want to make money, and I feel like maybe the way I carried it out with how some of the quotes were maybe be hard for someone to hang on their wall because it was so emotional.
So real quick, what are you talking about? There was pieces
So
where
I felt like at the time, maybe when I wrote some of these quotes that I felt were really dear to my heart, it would be kind of weird maybe to just hang it on your wall. There's one of them that said, "In due time, all things align," and that was like the happy one.
yeah,
But I feel like the
they were
other ones,
depressing, weren't they?
maybe a little bit, and I feel like that's kind of been some of my story and how I've been creating up until this point.
Yeah. What
And
were
I
the
feel
other
like
quotes for everybody listening?
one of them was like, "My mind is amazed. I've been wandering around for days." That was a quote I had previously done on an art piece.
Uh-huh.
And then, but it was like part of the series of a wall of 6 pieces. So it was like the top row was the swatches and like the color, and then the bottom row was all like skulls. So it was almost like life, death, rebirth in a sense. And then the middle one was like the quote, and it's like I feel like there's different things I felt in life. So it was like, in due time, all things align. We are all alone together. I thought things would be different by now. Only time will tell. Through space and time, all I can see are fragments of you and me. What was the other ones? There's like 2 other ones.
I don't know.
I gotta read them off now.
All right, look
Let,
them up.
let's look them up. But I felt weird being in the space with some of these things on the wall because it was like things I had thought about. And then as I'm in the space, even between the time I had created them and then hanging up on the wall for everyone to come in and
Your
look at,
emotions changed.
yes,
How long?
yes,
How long of a period of time was that?
maybe like 2 or 3 months.
Okay,
So the other one that I wasn't remembering was our soul is a mirror we must look inside before we die.
that's pretty depressing.
I think I had this bad mushroom trip at the time, and I feel like some of the quotes stemmed from it, like through space and time, all I can see are fragments of you and me.
Uh huh.
Yeah, I think that was where some of that stemmed from. And I didn't feel like that like 2 or 3 months later, you know what I mean? Like I feel like I had to go through that experience and heal some of the things within myself. So
Yeah.
by the time that they're out there for everyone to see on the wall, I'm standing there like this is a fragment of the old version of me that I'm like now growing out of as I'm getting older. Like I feel like the last 2 years being out here, I feel like I've gone through a lot and matured quickly, and like I'm elevating myself and my energy level. So like
Yeah.
I felt that on that particular wall, that was a big highlight of the show. I feel like I put some things out there that were kind of heavy.
Yeah.
And I feel like looking back at it now, I said what I said, and those were the things I
It's
had
like a
thought of.
period. It's like a time capsule.
It is a time capsule, but at the same time, it was a little bit like that was like the last reset of my energy. I felt like after that, I was like, I feel like I got back into my creative groove and like started tapping back into my heart more after I had gone through that show.
Got it. I mean, I understand the hesitation. Like, I don't know if it's embarrassment, but I think a lot of artists go through that because like you're in a headspace when you create a show, and then you always look at it back in hindsight. You were a different person when you made that work. That's a time capsule of who you were at the time. That's what's so great about making these shows because like they are like it's something you look back on as at a period of your life. Like, I think that's quite honestly happens to a lot of artists where like I look back at shows and I don't remember the art so much. I remember how I felt at that point, or remember how I felt about the show. I think that's fine that you feel that way. That's good. Like, and that's good that like you put yourself out there in that way, and like it was meaningful to you because like that's kind of what art is, right? Let's wrap this up. I mean, the whole reason you're here, besides obviously finally getting you on tape and everything, was I was in Japan last year and I bought this sweatshirt from the 80s of Mickey Mouse sitting cross-legged. And then I met you, and then you were in Japan when I started talking to you, and it kind of all just like synchronicity came together. And I asked you to help me make a couple shirts with that's kind of like inspired by the shirt that I found in Tokyo. Um, is there anything you like we can say about it? Does like it's pretty. I mean, it's the best way possible. It's very straightforward to Justin Mensinger idea. Like it looks like you made it. I mean, which is good because you did. But I basically redrew the designs and like you kind of made Frankenstein them together where it looks like pieces of them are like ripping off. Anything else you want to say about that?
I mean, each piece is different and one on one,
Yeah.
which I think adds a lot to it because we could have approached it and cut each one of them the same and made them formulaic and put the same colors in the same spots. And that's not how we approached it at all.
Yeah.
And I feel like having the layering too of like, it kind of goes into both of our work of like almost this deconstructed element of life and death and all these colors and things in between. I feel like we brought all those elements into the pieces, and I'm happy to be able to share them. Some of my favorite ones are the ones that are more like slashed, I feel like.
Yeah.
But then there's some that have, like the circles and you can kind of see through. I
Yeah.
think they all have a different dimension to them, but a lot of the pieces of these t-shirts too that we used, some of them I hand dyed at a certain point. Like those shirts had gone through a journey
Yeah.
of their own as well before they ended up getting printed on and cut up.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty incredible. They are all completely different. I have no idea how like we're gonna like present them because they're all different. Like, how do you buy the one you want unless they're all listed? I'll figure that out later. We're wrapping this up. Do you have any final thoughts you want to share with people? Any parting wisdom for young artists, designers, creatives listening to this?
My parting wisdom to any young designer and creative is to stay on the course and keep creating. And if you're creating from a place of whatever it may be, we all have a different place we're creating from. At a certain point, we might be creating from love. At a certain point, we might be creating because we just went through something that was intense. Whatever it is that you're tapping into, that you're creating from, let that energy flow and transmute whatever you're going through in this lifetime. Transmute whatever you're going through into your art. I think is the most powerful thing you can do because, as you said before, it's like you're capturing an essence in a moment. And I think also always focus on improving your craft and the technicalities of it, but also embrace the imperfections and getting your message out of your head. Like, don't be afraid to put out your work if it's not 100% perfect in a sense. I think some of the most beautiful work that I'm beginning to realize and embracing more is like sometimes when things are messy or that they're like a little rough on the edges, it captures more of that human essence of what you're really up to at that moment when you're
Yeah.
creating. And I think that's a beautiful thing. And I think you need to embrace that. So like just continue to create and work through whatever you're going through, good, bad, in between. Just put that energy into the work so that other people can be inspired by it or share it or connect to it, because that's what we're meant to do here is connect. And we're all from the same thing, whatever it is in the universe. And a lot of times we forget that. There's been moments when I forget that, where I feel isolated, like I'm battling the world by myself. And I'm like, no, we're all connected. We're all here together.
Totally. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, dude. Appreciate your time.
Likewise, I appreciate it.
Yeah, talk to you next time. See ya.
See you.
All right, everybody, I hope you enjoyed that. Maybe you have questions or opinions about what we talked about on this episode. Maybe you have your own questions about your art career or just looking for some advice. Shoot us an email and we'll answer your questions on a future episode. You can email us directly on our website, cleanbreakpodcast.com. And just a reminder that all our past episodes are available there, as well as a ton of free resources, guides, and tips on how to make more money with your art and get more people interested. This podcast is produced by Elijah Walsh, theme song by Ditch David, additional research by Ikram Dadar. I want to thank Patrick, Jason, and the Always Art team. My name is Matt Gondek. I'll crash you next time.